This is all about the real life competition that happens in the marketplace. And we intend to be looking at it from the perspective of how to go about looking at the competition that happens from the different type of players, different type of brands, different type of products, and at different levels for the different situations that are there in the marketplace, and understanding the dynamics in the context of the standardized theory that exactly exists for looking at the dynamics in the marketplace. So very quickly we would be starting our session. It's 12:05 now, so we'll just give some time for people to join in. There are approximately another 15 of you who have already joined, but we just wait a few minutes more for others to join as well, and then we shall commence with the session. In the meantime, I would just take care of the presentation which I'll be sharing with all of you. So quickly, I'll be going on to the screen share. Good number of people who are joining one by one. So just okay. So I think we just try to give the screen share for all of you. Okay. So let's get started. I would say if the screen is visible, if you can see the presentation, just let me know. Give me a voice confirmation. Anyone?
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir,
it's
it is visible.
visible.
Okay, thank you. So I think let us get started. We'll be discussing about the competitive dynamics in the context of the aspect that we intend to present today. That is how basically the competitive and the competition and the driving forces they address the growth for different organizations. We would be trying to see what exactly is important for companies for growing towards the core of their business. What exactly market leaders, how they basically go down to expanding the total market and as well as defending their market share, and then how market challengers and market leaders uh, basically try to strategize, what market followers and niches basically do to compete effectively, what exactly is the context of the product life cycle stage and strategies different marketeers incorporate for the different stages of their life cycle, and how do they adjust these strategies in terms of the slow economic growth. Now, this is very, very important in current times because we are currently facing a very, very slow economic growth. So, what exactly is the current state of affairs, and how do marketeers, in order try to dovetail their strategies to take care of the current economic scenario and position their products so that they make a substantial amount of revenue for sustenance, survival, and their growth? Because this exactly is a very important aspect which is very pertinent in current times because the market is at an all-time low. People want to keep money with themselves. They do not want to make a lot of expenses. They would be spending only on things which are pure necessities and not on anything affluent or luxury goods. So in these times, what exactly does certain companies, they make certain type of products which exactly are fast moving consumer goods or consumer durables? How do they need to restructure their strategies in order to survive these type of the no, unpleasant times. That exactly is there. So, what exactly are the growth strategies? So, before going to the growth strategies, I would be taking you down to something which exactly is very interesting, and this is called as, if you're looking at the Indian automobile industry per se. So I would be trying to draw your attention to the Indian automobile industry, and we would be trying to see how the Indian automobile industry is actually poised, and what are the different type of brands which are there, and the dynamics that exactly is in operation in the Indian automobile industry, and how the different brands are faring. So, very quickly, we will be trying to see how this important dimension actually plays. Um, there are approximately 20 players, and there are approximately 90 models of uh, different brands which are being upwards in about, and there are approximately 360 variants in the Indian automobile industry, the different car segments that we currently have. Now, this is getting a bit, we just need to take a small, because we're supposed to have started at 12:05. Most of you have joined, but it's about 12:11, and still people are joining one by one. So I'll just wait for another 5 minutes or so. Rather, I'll take up the case study later, because in case people do not join in time, then it'll become a big challenge for them. So we take up a case study a bit later. We'll just continue with some of the bare basics. So growth strategies are all about, if you want to see, it's about developing the, building your market share and developing a committed consumer, customers, and the stakeholder. That is, how do you develop your committed customers and stakeholders? How do you build your powerful brand, innovate with new products, services, and experiences? Your international expansion, if you're going beyond the boundaries of your country, then you're taking care of acquisition, mergers, and alliances with different organizations, or building an outstanding social reputation. That is, building an outstanding reputation for social responsibility as well. That's also contributing to growth, or partnering with government and NGOs. Now, these all are the different type of strategies that an organization can do in the context of these aspects of growth. So, growth does not mean just expanding your revenue. Growth means many more dimensions also. These are other facets of growth as well, which exactly are there. So effectively, we have to look into that domain as well, in terms of growth, not only just revenue maximization or profit maximization. So the core brand is, make the core brand as distinctive as possible. This is the first important aspect. The second is drive distribution through both existing as well as new channels that we create. So let's say, for example, if you're currently having an offline channel of marketing, if you have created a new online channel, or if you've created a hybrid channel, that is online and offline marketing, both you're doing. So effectively driving distribution through new created channels or new intermediaries could be a new way of growing your core. That exactly is your product or the core brand. Also offer the core product in the new formats or versions. So let's say, for example, you have got it in one format, you try to address the entire growth parameter in another format per se. So that exactly could be also another mechanism for trying to expand, or exactly trying to grow. So effectively, we would also be looking at a few more aspects of how growth can happen. And let us look at competitive. Now, there's a market leader. What exactly is about the competitive strategy? So effectively, let's say, for example, there are four categories of um, players in the market. Let's say the 40% of it is occupied by the market leader. Now, the next is the person who's just after the leader, that exactly is called as the market challenger. And then 20% is occupied by something called as the market follower. and the last 10% is catering to market niche, that is niche market, that is only catering to very specified type of customers. So effectively, if you're looking at the market leader wants to have a larger share of market share, and so he would try to do two important things. First is he try to expand the total market demand. So let's say, for example, because the market size is limited, so he tries to create a newer type of a market for his product. The moment he creates a larger market share, effectively what happens is the product actually reaches out to a larger segment. Now, coming down to protecting the market share, which is the job of a market challenger, because he is at the second level. Now, his job is to save his share so that his follower does not eat into his market share. Now, his job is to maintain his position because he will be trying to become the market leader, but he, in his current times, would try to sustain his current position, that is as a market challenger, and to retain his position as a market challenger, because the market follower is very quickly trying to catch up with him. If the market follower catches up, then chances are that he would not be in a position to actually sustain his situation and would like to be actually thrown out of the market, and he would become the market follower, and the market follower would become the market challenger. Now, the job of a market follower would be to increase the market share. So effectively, because his objective is that is the more market share he tries to increase, he would be coming into the area of the market challenger. So market follower will try to take the position of the market challenger, and the market challenger's job is to sustain his position, because he is not in a position to lose his second position, which is actually after the market leader. So market leader is trying to do something that is expanding the total market. Market challenger is trying to protect the market share, and increasing the market share done by market followers. So this is the current dynamics which is operated by the three dimensions which exactly are there. Now I'm going to give you an example of something which is called as this is an example called by shock absorbers by a company called as Monroe. Now here we've got effectively looking at how do you expand the total market demand. That is, you can do it by two ways. First is by incorporating new customers. Now, the moment you create a new customer, let's say you are creating a new sort of a demand that exactly is there. And the second important way of creating a total market demand is by more usage for that product. I'm going to give you this aspect about more usage for the product shortly, because I'm going to share with you one very interesting story, and in the Indian market, which exactly is there, which organizations use for increasing more usage for a product. But you might like to look at it from a different orientation. I will just be sharing with you. Now, the example that's given out here is about a shock absorber. It says that change your worn shocks at 50,000 miles because everything gets old, even your shocks. So they have a unique way of saying that they've shown here some bananas which exactly have not been eaten for quite some time, and they have got changed it to a yellow colored peel has changed to a brownish colored peel. So it says that even though the banana looks, it might be good inside, but effectively it is old. It looks not very appetizing, because it's good, but it does not look very appetizing because it is old. So somebody would like to go for a newer one. So that's what it says, that even everything gets old, even your shocks, your tires, your other consumables which exactly are there in the products, they basically end up getting used. So effectively, this is targeting on more usage. So it says that even if your shocks or tires have been there for quite a period of time, you got to change them after 50,000 miles, because they get old and then they can hamper the entire ownership that exactly is there, or the driving comfort that is there for your vehicles. Now, I'm going to come up with a very interesting story at this point of time, and I will be sharing with you the story. Now, there may be a dimension of ethics which exactly is involved here. So I would be sharing with you one organization which said that, which had a great amount of market share. Um, This market share, it's at something like about, let's say, a majority market share was there, about 60 to 70% of market share. So it was nearly a monopolistic sort of a market, which exactly was there. Yes, Swami, you're trying to raise your hand. Do you have anything? You want to ask a question or something of that? Or was it by mistake? Okay, okay. So fine, not a problem. Uh, Now, this organization was in the oral care segment. Now, let me try to share it with you how exactly this person tried to increase the market share without trying to, because the market had, let's say, for example, a certain amount of people, like 100 people were there, let's say, in a market, and 75 people were using this brand of oral toothpaste or oral tooth cream. Now, effectively, so 25 people were using the other oral cream, or could be using multiple other oral cream brands, but 75% was using this brand, which is called as brand X. I'm not going to give you the name of the brand because there was something very unethical that they did, and you'll be very surprised how they did it. So now this exactly is one way of increasing the market share. But then yes, you'll be finding that certain organizations are doing that. This is from a real life situation that I'm trying to tell you. This is what I have experienced in the market, what we in the marketing fraternity, in the organization, in the industry, we talked about, and this is an unethical way of doing something. So, but then yes, it's a very fine line where you have to take a call that whether this is an ethical practice or it's an unethical practice. So now this is an unethical practice, let me tell you. So I don't want you to be jumping the moment I give you the details that how exactly is it supposed to be done. Now what now this is something very sad. People are joining in late, disturbing the entire session. But sorry. So effectively, what happened was that this person, who the marketing head, he said, no, 75 people are operating. I don't care, but I want 50% more raise. I want more market to be captured. Now, the market, imagine, is a size of 100, but he says that I don't care. 75 is the market share that I'm getting. I'm getting 75 customers, 75%, but I want more. I want double the amount of sales. I don't care. I want now. How exactly is it that you're going to create the market, which exactly is already 75% captured by this sort of a brand? So what this guy did was, one smart marketing executive, he said, I can get you that. I can get you double your share. Now, this fellow said, how would you do that? So he said, since we are the market leaders, I can get you that. And people are being very loyal to us. So I will try to do just some small tinkering and I will be able to get it. So what he did was, he did something very unethical. So you see the toothpaste, you have the orifice from where the cream comes out. When you press the paste, now when you open the cap of the toothpaste, there's an orifice, the opening from where the tooth cream comes out, isn't it? So let's say the orifice diameter was X. Okay. So what he did was, he increased that diameter of that tube of toothpaste. Now what happens is, with every squeeze, let's say X amount of toothpaste was coming out in your brush. Now 1.5 times X is coming to your toothbrush. So effectively what has happened was, people did not notice that he has increased the diameter of the orifice of the tube of the toothpaste. So what happens is, let's say, for example, every time you squeezed, you get a certain amount of tooth cream on your toothbrush. But now what happens is, the moment you squeeze, because he's increased the diameter of the tooth orifice of the toothpaste, the moment you squeezed your paste, 1.5 times the volume of the paste would come to your toothbrush. So effectively what is going to happen is, let's say, for example, you used a toothbrush for, let's say, 1 month. If you were brushing 2 times a day, technically this toothpaste lasted only for 15 days. The moment it lasted only for 15 days, So technically what you would do is you'd require to buy two toothpastes in a month. The moment you're buying two toothpastes in a month, the volume has doubled. So effectively, if let's say 1,000 toothpastes were being sold in 1 month, technically now you started selling 2,000 toothpastes per month. So you see the volume has doubled. But do you need that extra tooth cream on your toothpaste? But technically, it basically you're trying to use it to clean your tooth, and then you're spitting it out. You're not going to eat it in. So you're spitting it out. So effectively, it is a wastage. This wastage is being paid by consumers, and technically this wastage is translated into profits for the organization. But the objective of the organization is that I am trying to increase my market share. Now, this is something which is, they have achieved their objective. They have achieved their revenue. They have achieved their market share. And one way, if people are not buying the toothpaste, they're giving 1+1 free, increasing the price and saying that you're going to get a 15% discount or a 10% discount if you're buying two toothpaste for the price for one. They're giving you a combo pack and sending two toothpastes which are loaded in one package. But technically, they have increased their market share. So effectively, organizations can be looking at different type of dynamics to increase their market share. And let me tell you, many a times these are not ethically correct. So the role why we are trying to teach you marketing is that, and we're trying to give you an orientation into what is exactly happening in the marketplace, is that you've got to be clear and take a call that whether your decisions or whether your strategies are ethically correct or unethical. Because when you go to the market, you'll find that there are many unethical practices which are being happened, and their objective, the core objective remains the same. It's just not to, they're not looking at who pays what, how, which pitches whom, but technically at the end of the day, I'm the market leader. I actually have the market share, I have the brand share, I have the entire market with me. I actually am a monopolistic player. That exactly is the orientation some people have. So effectively, yes, I'll tell you one example of another activity where basically it was happening at my organization. And yes, we did something which exactly is, later I realized that this is highly unethical practice, and in order to increase our market share, we did something which was not correct, and we bypassed certain rules. We did certain things because I told you my second stint beyond Shell was with Phoenix Electrics, and here basically we were into making auto halogen headlamps for different cars or four-wheelers. Now what happened was generally the lamp that you're using for your headlights for your vehicles are actually the Automobile Regulatory Authority of India, ARAI, has certified that the headlight beams have to be 60-55 watt. So the lamps that are there in the headlights of your vehicles, they exactly are 60-55 watt for a four-wheeler. I mean, for a two-wheeler, it's a 25-15 watt. High beam is 20 watt and low beam is 15 watt. It's called an M5 lamp, and for a four-wheeler, it's called an H4 lamp. Graded as an H4 lamp, and its technical specifications go that it has a high beam of 65 W. 65 is 60-55. 60 is the high beam and 55 is the low beam. So when you're putting in the high beam, it gives you a 60 watt light illumination, and the moment you put it on the low beam, it gives you a 55 illumination. The low beam actually lights the front of your car. It's about something like around 10 meters, and the high beam is about 50 meters. So that basically is for a long view. So effectively, this is the standard which exactly has been devised. Now, what happened was we came up with another product which was called as 170, which was called as 195. That is 100 watt high beam and 95 watt low beam. Now you can imagine 65, 60 to 100. 40 watt of increase in power illumination, and 55 to 95. Again, 40 watt increase in power for the low beam. So the recommendation was 60-55. And we went to with the new product which we came up with, which a new lab which we came up with, that was called as 195. Now imagine 40 watt of illumination, what exactly it is going to do to the person who's driving from the opposite side. It's going to literally make him blind. And chances are, the moment you are going to face a vehicle which exactly is coming with a higher wattage of lamp, you want to increase your wattage of lamp. So technically, all of them are migrating from a 60-55 watt to a 195 watt lamp. Now, this exactly is going to have everybody replacing the 60-55 watt lamp. And specifically, when it comes to truck drivers who basically are driving at night with a 195 watt lamp, believe me, a small vehicle, a low medium vehicle is going to be completely blinded. And the thing is that they're going to just run off the road. Now, this can be a very dangerous sort of a situation, and it's going to create more accidents. But then the marketeer wanted to have a market share. So effectively, it wanted everybody to change their 60-55 watt lamp to a 195 watt lamp. And yes, we came up with a lamp called as XL, Halonix XL. Now that is 195, super bright light was what how we promoted it. But technically, this is unethical. So effectively, what really happens is that you have to actually look at certain type of products, and you have to decide whether this product is ethical or unethical. And that exactly goes into looking at expanding the total market share. So then, if you're looking at the market followers, their objective is to protect the market share. That is proactive marketing, that is response. That is whatever is the response, you anticipate the response and you create an anticipation. That is, you create a reaction before the response actually happens. You actually do some sort of a proactivity and you try to protect the market. Now, this is called how the marketeers proactive marketing happens. So effectively, this is something how defensive marketing happens. So you see, the defender is in position 1, okay, and there are 5 ways he can defend the market. The first thing he can do is he decides to go for something which is called as maintaining his position. He does not do anything, but he tries to sustain his position. And the second thing he does is he attacks a flag attack. He attacks from the side, not from the front. So rather than attacking the marketeer, that is the leader in the front, he attacks him from the side. That is, he goes to the he attacks in one area where the market leader is not actually serving the market, and he tries to attack from there. The third thing that he can do is he does a preemptive. That is, before the market leader makes a change, he basically goes ahead for it and tries to do it quickly. The fourth thing he can do is he can do counter-offensive. So let's say, for example, somebody has come up with some sort of a advertisement. So you immediately try to have a counter-offensive advertisement. That is, you try to create a new type of an attack. So let's say, for example, there is a Coke has come up with a new type of a drink. So Pepsi might decide to come up with a counter-offensive attack by trying to reduce the size of the bottle. That is, a 330 ml bottle will be reduced to something like 200 ml bottle. Now, this is something called as a counter-offensive sort of an attack. That is, you are trying to do something which exactly is taken up by Coke. So Pepsi comes up with a smaller offer or at a cheaper price. Then the fifth method is called the mobile attack. That is, you are attacking via somebody else. You basically are not attacking from your own brand, but you are sending a dummy brand which is going to attack the market leader. And basically, the market leader will be fighting the dummy, and that is a mobile attack. And then is the sixth type, that is you contract. That is, you run away from that market into another type of a market. That is, you back up. So these are the 6 ways of how you can do a defensive marketing, or you can actually go for have a defensive sort of an attack. Now, towards increasing the market share, the cost of buying higher market share through acquisition may far exceed its revenue value. So let's say, for example, possibility of provoking an antitrust action, pursuing wrong marketing activities, economic cost, or increasing the market share, quality effect on quality. So effectively, these are the cost of buying higher market share through acquisition, which may far exceed its revenue value. So I told you that if you are going to do something which is unethical, then chances are that you will provoke an antitrust action from the government or from the different type of the bodies which exactly are looking at the interest of the community or the society at large. Or you may do certain wrong active marketing activities which is going to give you a bad name. So you may increase the market share, but you exactly lose your name in the market, and it is going to have a huge amount of economic cost, as well as it might increase the market share, but it will have an effect on the quality or the something called the ethics of your organization, which is going to make your organization unethical. So these are some of the challenges of increasing market share. So all the increase is not always positive, but sometimes they can also have a negative impact as well, that is increasing your market share. So what exactly is the optimal market size? You see, if you look at this graph, you see that the market share is increasing from 0 to 25 in the x-axis to 50 to 75 to 100%. And the profitability, you see, is increasing, because with this the profitability is increasing with till 25% of the market share, the profitability is there. The moment you go up from this at 50% of the market share, the profitability is there. But then if you go beyond 50% to 75%, now you see the profitability is actually coming down. So this exactly is the optimal market share. 50% is the optimal market share where you're getting maximum profitability. Because effectively you will have to, there is a cost of marketing which also has to be done. So with increasing market share, you have to increase the cost of marketing. And chances are that a point will come in terms of your profitability where the cost of marketing will be more than the revenue that you're going to be generating. So effectively, this is going to result in a drop in the profitability. So you have to see, if you're looking at the profitability at 75% and the profitability at 25% is nearly the same. If you draw an line which is parallel to the x-axis at this point, you will find that the profitability at 25% and the profitability at 75% is nearly the same. So there is no reason for going, if you want a profitability, this is the profitability level that you want, then why should you invest so much amount of money so that you're getting the profitability with 75% market share and profitability at 25% market share, which is the same. So rather than, so you don't want so much amount of market share. So you should, if you want the highest amount of profitability, that can maximum come at 50%. So this sort of a curve is towards the optimal market share, which should be in the mind. So now let us look at certain type of market challenger strategies. There are certain type of market challenger. Market challenger can attack the market leader, underfunded firms its own size, and local and regional firms, and maintain its status quo, which I have already discussed in the context of the challenger. So let us look at the challenger strategy. So earlier we had the leader strategy, now the market defender strategy, now this is the market challenger. So you see market challenger, this is the market challenger, the green one, and this is the market leader, the yellow one. So market challenger can have a front attack to the market leader. Then it can also do something which is called as a side attack, which is called as the flank attack. Then it can also do something which exactly is called as the encirclement. That is going to come from here and come back and attack the market of the leader. Or it can do something called the bypass attack. That is, attack it from here, it bypass the frontal and bypass the encirclement and come and attack from here. And then it can also do something called the guerrilla attack. That is, from anywhere it can attack the market leader. Now, this exactly is what the market challenger can do in order to attack the market leader. So it's more like a warfare. So strategy, actually, the word strategos is actually the art of war. This came from the Roman generals, where they came up with the word called as strategos, and strategos means art of war. And then today we are using it for marketing. So marketing is actually also considered as a warfare, because market challenger strategies or market leader strategies, so in order to sustain in the market or be in the market, they have to do different type of attacks in terms of different type of strategies that they try to create for challenging the leadership position and to gain the advantage into that position. So the market challenger can have 5 levels of attack. The first being frontal attack, the second being flank attack, third being bypass attack, fourth being encirclement attack, and the fifth being guerrilla attack. Now, these exactly are the 5 types of attacks that these different type of marketeers can be doing. Now, market follower. Now, market follower can do a few more things. It can be a cloner. So it will try to imitate exactly like the follower, like the leader, or it can imitate the leader, or it can adapt to the level of a leader. Now, these are something that the market follower can do, because a follower is at a very disadvantaged level. So if you're trying to see, this is where the follower is. The follower is here. Because we've seen what the market leader is going to do. We've seen what the market challenger is going to do in terms of the different strategies for the attack to each other. The market challenger will try to create certain attacks in order to retain its position. Market challenger will try to attack to gain the market leader position. But market follower is in a very vulnerable position, because it has to, if it wants to become the market leader, first it has to become the market challenger, and then it has to become the market leader. So what market follower does is exactly it tries to imitate like the market leader. So effectively that exactly is where the vulnerable market follower does. That is, he tries to become a cloner. That is, trying to clone, imitate, exactly make replicate products like the market leader. So then it tries to imitate. It tries to do some sort of an imitation. It tries to imitate the market leader, because we find that this is a successful strategy. So let me try to be an imitator, because I cannot be initiator. I cannot be an inventor. So let me try to be an imitator. Then it tries to adapt. It tries to adapt itself to the situation. Now then there is the fourth segment, which is called as the market niche. Now, market niche, let me tell you, is the lowest segment, that it is catering to very specified segment of the market. So let us try to see what exactly market niches actually do. So market niches, in order to be a leader in a small market, they want to categorize only one small market that is very low share of the total market, but they can become highly profitable through smart niching. Niche means a very clear, precise segment of the market. Some people have a very specified taste, a very different type of an orientation, and they would go for only those type of product. So that exactly is what the market niche tries to do. That it tries to become a leader in a very small segment of the market. Now, there are different type of niche specialist roles. You've got end user specialists, you've got vertical level specialists, you've got customer size specialists, geographical specialists, and you've got job shop specialists, and you've got channel specialists. So these basically are the different type of specialized role which exactly are there for the market niches. Now we come to the most important aspect, which is called the product life cycle and marketing strategies. Now, product life cycle, is divided into 4 forms. First is called as the introduction. Second is called as the growth. Third is called as the maturity. And the fourth is called the decline. Now, every product goes through these stages, and it is called as PLC. Every time you'll be hearing about this word called PLC in your marketing parlance, and effectively it means introduction. Now, see, when you have new product, the sales have just started. If you understand, the x-axis is about time, and the y-axis is about sales and profits. So let us look at the growth of these different type of graphs in the terms of the different activities over a period of time for the different type of products in terms of the product life cycle. So, there are certain type of products which start, and that exactly takes a time to grow. You see, with time, this sort of growth is very gentle, and it takes a certain amount of time. Now, this has been introduced. So this phase is called as introduction. The first vertical, beyond the first vertical and the starting point, it is called as introduction. So sales has introduced. At this point of time, you see the profit is zero. There's no profit. The only expenses which is happening. Sales is happening, but expenses is there. So the difference is zero profit is there. So there's no profit at the point of introduction. But from where the growth starts, that is the profit starts, it's called as growth. Now you see that it's taking a very vertical type of a jump where people have started buying this product in bulk and sales and profits have started increasing. So now you see this is attained this level, and definitely now the profit has started picked up. So profit has also gone up. So this figure is, this area is called as growth. That is growth of the product. Then comes the next level, which is called as maturity. Now, maturity, what happens is that the growth continues and the sales, a time comes when the sales also grows, but then beyond that, the sales drops and the profits also, actually, this profit peaks till this point of time, and then the profits start declining. Why? Because the cost of selling becomes more than the revenue that you're generating. So that is why sales have also started dropping and profits have also started dropping. So no doubt profits are there, but the profits are less because of this sort of a curve that has already taken place. So this area is called as maturity. So we had introduction, we had growth, we had maturity, and then comes something which is called as the decline of any sort of a life cycle stage, that is the old age of a product. So effectively now you see the decline is there, then the sales are actually coming down and down and down. Probably a new product has really started taking up over here. Introduction, growth, maturity have a new product has started. So there's another cycle which is actually moving, and people have migrated from this product to that product. So effectively the sales are dropping and so is the profits. So this is the area which is called decline. So we have the four stages of any sort of an organizational life cycle marketing strategy. That is introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And you see this sort of graphs can be different for different products. Now, also the shape of the graphs can be different. Now here you see the growth, there's a vertical fast growth with time, and then there's a fast drop, and then it is static. This does not come down to the x-axis. This is constant, which is over there. So growth, slump, and maturity. So this is growth, slump, and maturity pattern. This is the where y-axis is the volumes and x-axis is time. This is cycle recycle pattern. So suddenly primary cycle, what happened? There's a huge fluctuation of growth. Then there is a recycle. Then there's a drop, and then again it picks up, and then again there's a drop. So this is called the primary cycle. This is called recycle. So this is actually a sinusoidal sort of a curve, and this is up and down, up and down, up and down curve. So this is called as a cycle recycle pattern of growth, decline, growth, decline. Then there is a scallop pattern, that is first jump, second jump, third jump. So you see newer variants are coming up. So by the time it went into the new, it was trying to mature, suddenly you came up with a newer version you added a new version to the product. And suddenly what happened is it again went into growth. So again, when it tried to actually again come to maturity, you added another feature to the product, and then again it started the cycle to go up. That is a growth again started. So you see there are multiple growths which are happening, and the level maturity is coming, you are adding some new feature, and then again growth is kicking in. So this is called as a scalloped pattern. So effectively these are some of the common life cycle patterns. So every time you're not going to find this type of a pattern where you've got a growth, introduction, growth, maturity, decline happening. But sometimes the pattern can change into growth, slump, maturity pattern. It can also be a cycle recycle pattern, or it can all be a scalloped pattern for growth, which could also be there. Then we've got also something which exactly for different type of products and services, you've got different strategy. Like for example, if styling, you see what happens is style can kick up, it can go down, then style can again kick up and go down. So style keeps changing like this type of a pattern, that is called as the cycle recycle pattern. So if there are any type of products which fit into the style, this can go like this. But then when you're talking about fashion, fashion starts and then fashion matures and then fashion declines. So effectively, this is something which is to be done with fashion. That is for fashion goods, you've got the growth, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline happening. But then there is something which is called the fad. Fad is something which is just temporarily burst. So you got very sharp rise and then a sharp decline, a very quick fall. So very quick rise and a very quick fall. So you can, if you want to come into the area of fad goods, then you enter and you very quickly exit. But style, it lingers over a period of time. But then fashion, it goes up and then is lost. So depending on which type of goods actually are categorized for different reasons, we got different type of strategies which are there for the different aspects which are there. Now coming down to the different aspects of the marketing strategies, we'll be looking at the introduction, uh, growth, maturity, and decline one by one. So, what exactly are some of the different type of aspects which are there for pioneering advantages and pioneering drawbacks? We'll try to look into that as well. That is, there are certain type of advantages which are there with the pioneers are having advantages, and there are certain drawbacks also which are there for different type of pioneers which are there. So, very quickly, let us look into some of the advantages. That is, if you have a brand name, there will be a quick brand name recall. Like, for example, if I say, can you tell me the brand name of the chocolate that you like, or the cold drink that you like, or the pizza that you like? Now, it'll be on the tip of your tongue. You'll be very quickly be saying it. Now, this is basically because the brands which exactly are there, the fast moving consumer good brands or the consumer durable brands which are there in your name, or the name of the mobile phone that you're currently having. These are basically are the pioneers, and they basically, the recall of the brand name is very fast. Like, for example, you can very quickly recall the brand name of these products simply because they have been pioneers. So if I were to ask you about a question in these contexts, you'd be in a position to reply me very, very fast. But if I ask you pioneering product class, what type of product class attributes they have, what features they have, what captures the users of the middle of the market, more users in the middle of the market, what exactly are some of the standard features which exactly most of the people. So you've got to give me certain type of pioneering advantages. And drawbacks, imitators can surpass the innovators. So sometimes, a lot of innovation which can be surpassed by the imitators. So imitators will be very quickly trying to see which are the features which are very quick, used most oftenly, and they will try to imitate. And once the leadership it is lost, it is rarely regained. You see, Nokia was the brand leader once upon a time, and then we have got other brands which exactly came up. Samsung came up, Apple came up, and Sony came up. There were so many brands which came, which were the leaders, and then they lost. So Nokia could never come back to that sort of a leadership position in the cell phone industry when it was. Sony also at one point of time was the market leader in terms of the consumer electronics, but then it lost. So effectively, these are some of the advantages of the pioneering, drawbacks which exactly have been there. Now you see, this exactly is an aspect in terms of a long range product market and expansion strategy. Now there are three markets, M1, M2, and 3, and there are three products, P1, P2, P3. So let us see, P1 enters market M1 with a product. Okay. The moment it enters this market M1 with the product, it tries to actually rapidly climb to this level, because this exactly is a P1 is the price that exactly it targets at a market M1. The market M1 can take up this sort of a pricing which exactly is there. Then it goes to, with that sort of a pricing, it goes to establish in a second market. Now, second market cannot take care of that type of a price. So effectively, after it has captured the market one, it tries to drop the price. If you have seen Samsung's mobile phone Note 10 series, first it entered into market M1, which was a high-end market, the one with the infinity screen and the one with the stylus, and that Samsung mobile phone. It entered into the up niche market. It tried to sell its cell phones for something like approximately 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, something of that sort of the price range. But then it came up, after it had captured the market, it came to another segment, which was it came up with a Samsung Note 10 Lite. Now, this Lite is a segment which exactly is for a lower segment. That is, it is within the range of something like 20,000 to 25,000 range. So you see, it dropped its product price from 80,000, 90,000 to 20, 25,000. So technically, it is the same product which came up with a second market. So it came to a second market with the same price. Then it dropped the price and it came to the M2. That is the markets that it dropped the price and came to the product which exactly is the third price. And then it again came back to the first segment and then it came back to the P3, that is the fifth segment. I will be detailing much about this strategy in the next class because we are currently at 12:55, and I believe that we have got I think another class might be there because we would be um, doing away with this class. So I will just be stopping my share, and we shall be taking it up in the next class that happens to be, I think, tomorrow. So we will continue with this aspect of competitive dynamics, and we will be taking care of some Indian case studies also. I will be talking about Fair and Handsome and Fair and Handsome, the men's fairness cream. We'll be talking about Electrolux. We'll also be talking about the brand which exactly is there in the context in the Indian. We'll take up some rural brand. We'll be talking about one tea brand, a very interesting case study about a tea brand, which exactly is not Taj Mahal or Red Label or Brook Bond, but it will be a very interesting brand which is called the Wagh Bakri Chai. So I will be talking about this brand also tomorrow. We'll be taking up these type of case studies in the context of the competitive dynamics as we discuss in tomorrow's session. As well as I'll be talking about this matrix as well. So with this, we come to an end of this session for the day. I would like all of you to join again tomorrow at the same time for the same session. I would request the volunteers who basically have been assisting me with my attendance, recording the attendance for the day. Atiq and we have got Osama doing the needful for us to please help us out in this. Thank you very much. So that be it for